Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were intended as games for everyone. Game Freak wanted to bring together the longtime main series fans, Pokemon Go fans, the new fans that didn't have much exposure to Pokemon at all before. But this idea sort of backfired, and the games ended up being very divisive in the community. At least that was the case before the games launched. The attitudes did start to change a little bit once more and more people decided to give the game a chance. So now, with the games out for several weeks, I wanted to give you my opinion on them. But because these games targeted multiple different groups, my opinion by itself didn't feel complete. What you're about to watch is a conversation I had with 3 of my friends who have different backgrounds with Pokemon. I'll let them introduce themselves shortly, and you can also find their social media links in the description. There is only one problem. When I looked at our recording to put together this video, the audio was great, but the video was about 1 hour and 45 minutes of blackness. There was no video at all. So what's going to play in the background here is the beginning of HoodlumScrafty's Let's Play. Callum very generously allowed other YouTubers to take his footage for their use, and if it weren't for him, you would be watching a black screen. I will put my own footage here and there to illustrate some points, but for the most part, it'll be from HoodlumScrafty. So feel free to move to a different tab or just do something else and listen in. I hope you enjoy this different format, and if you do, let me know by leaving a like and a comment. How about we begin by each of you giving a quick introduction and say what your relationship with Pokemon is, you know, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. So I'm Anna. I'm a totally beginner on the world of video games. I loved Pokemon since I was a child, but I never owned a video game before. Like in Brazil, it was very expensive, so my parents never gave me one. So I used to go to friends' house and play it a little bit, but I never actually had it, the console and stuff. So it's my first time playing video game, and now I have a Nintendo Switch, and it's been fun.
That's so cool.
Yes.
That actually is cool.
I know that you've had video games before because I gave you my Game Boy.
Yes, it was my first video game. I don't think it was even a Game Boy Color. I think it was a Game Boy Color. I didn't remember.
I remember that you had like Wario Land or something.
Yes,
and
that was
that was not a Game Boy Color game.
Yes, yeah, that was it. Yeah, but I think people had like GameCube at their homes, and I was playing Wario on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
So just as an aside, how would the price of a Switch and Let's Go compare to what someone in the States would pay?
Oh, right now, I would have to check online, but I think it would be like 3 times the price at least. It's very expensive, yeah.
That's crazy.
So not only do you have to convert to the currency, and of course the US dollar is much stronger than the Brazilian real, but on top of that, there's like ridiculous import taxes on electronics. So for electronics in particular, things get really expensive.
Yikes.
Big oof.
Yeah. Crow, how about you go next?
Oh, hi. My name is Crow. I am a self-proclaimed Pokemon veteran. I have played every generation at least once, or up until 500-600 hours per generation, give or take. Besides that, I would call myself a gamer at heart. And my experience with gaming is I was basically born with a NES controller in my hand.
Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's no joke. As soon as I learned to read, talk, and remember things, I remember there being a NES in my house, and I remember beating my mom at Mario. So take that how you wish.
Early start.
Very much so.
I didn't get a game system until I got the Game Boy and the Nintendo 64 at roughly the same time. So I have no experience with NES and Super Nintendo until Virtual Consoles. Banana, how about you go next?
So I'm Banana Meteor. I have a very similar background to Crow in the sense that I've grown up with games for for mostly my entire life. The first game console I ever received that was my own was a Game Boy Color with Kirby's Dream Land 2 and a copy of Pokemon Blue. So I have been in it since the very beginning. There's a lot of Pokemon games where I've maxed out the timer on, so it doesn't count past 999 hours, because I really like I like to play.
I didn't even know there was a maximum.
Yeah, there's a maximum. And I do a lot of post-game competitive battling and breeding. So aside from just being into video games as a whole, I'm very into Pokemon. I love it. So Yeah.
Awesome. Probably most of the people viewing this have seen other videos of mine, so you might know a little bit about me, but I also have been playing Pokemon since the very beginning. My first game in general was Pokemon Yellow. I played Blue afterwards, and then I also started with the Nintendo 64 just to play Pokemon Stadium. So it's been in my whole life. I've played at least 2 games in every generation. I've restarted many games, which is probably why I never maxed out my
That's fair.
my timer. But yeah. So, what is your overall impression of the game before we start getting into details of Let's Go? Let's go with Crow this time.
My first impression with the game is that when you start it up, it feels really natural. It feels like you're back in the day. You go out, your character's just arrived. You don't know what to do, and you walk around, and your rival comes up, and it gives a good impression. It gives that good nostalgic feel. Although quickly, it also is taken away because at that point, like in the older games, Oak kind of caught your Pokemon for you, and now you actually have to throw your Pokeball yourself, which is kind of interesting. And also the whole fact about throwing your Pokeball. I don't know if you guys used the Pokeball, the Joy-Con, or just the Switch. It feels natural, and it doesn't feel weird. Not too weird compared to putting the movement of your arm into the movement into the game. And I like that. And it's nice. And then as you progress through the game and you actually see the Pokemon running around, it gives a different kind of feel that I'm used to. But it's not a bad feel. If I'm looking for a certain Pokemon on the route, I don't have to bump into 100 Pidgeys. It makes me feel nice. It makes me feel like it's something that's added that makes it a little bit easier, but it's a good change. Maybe not for the core games, but for this kind of style, I definitely dig it.
Sounds good. Anna, what was your impression of the game overall?
Well, since I've never had a game of my own, a Pokemon game of my own, I was very excited since the beginning for playing it for the first time. I already knew how it worked, but I never had this feeling of starting the game and battling and stuff. And I was impressed about everything. The graphics are so nice. It's very natural. I bought the Pokemon Plus, and I was taken back to my childhood. And there's this feeling on the game that is so addictive. Like you just want to start and run around and catch all the Pokemons at once. And it was super fun. I loved it, everything about it. I don't think I have many complaints about the game.
Anna, your opinion on these games is so pure and lovely. It's great to hear a first time fan. I really enjoyed it. I went into this game with low expectations because I knew they were scaling back a lot of the stuff that I come to Pokemon games for, like the competitive aspect. But the flavor and like the bonding with your Pokemon is so good that I really got sucked in. Like I didn't expect to be so into just petting my Pikachu, which was just great. And I love having the overworld Pokemon back in the environment like Heart Gold, Soul Silver had. And I think the Pokemon encountering them in the overworld just really makes you feel more immersed in the Pokemon world. And it's cute and it's great, and Pokemon's for everyone. So I'm glad that people seem to be receiving it well.
Yeah. For me, I also really enjoy the game overall. And like it's beautiful and it's a lot of fun and it's like easy to spend hours on.
Yeah.
But my overall impression is that everything that they do right, they don't do perfect. Like everything that I'm like, oh, this is really cool, but it could have been better if they changed this. Like that's basically going to be the all of my comments are going to follow this line.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's with everything in life. It could always be better.
Yeah, no, but it's like
we're critical because we love it.
Okay. So,
yeah. Okay.
Of course. But okay, so let's begin. Let's go into specifics. We're gonna begin with the difficulty level of the game, and I think that it was about as difficult as any other Pokemon game. It wasn't really that much easier. Like there were some things that were changed that made it a little easier, like being able to avoid wild encounters. But in terms of the battles, like the trainer battles, that kind of thing, the AI seemed a little better. The levels seemed a little higher. So everything, like it kind of balanced out. It didn't really feel that much easier than other games, but there were a lot of things that I feel could have been just like a tiny little bit tweaked, and that would have made things more enjoyable. For example, this game is less directed than the first generation, even though the first generation games were very undirected. Um, like you don't have to complete things in a specific order. Like after the second gym, you actually can do the plot and the gym stuff like completely independently, and you don't even have to battle gyms like in the order that they're presented to you, like even less than they were in the first gen. But that means that you might miss something, and then once you go back to it, you're like 10 or 15 levels over what everyone else is. So like you can do things in different order, which is fun. It's great, but then it just if you skip something and then you go back to it, any difficulty that could have been there is gone.
I see your point, but I'd also like to point out that the plot could be independent from everything else and the gyms, but there's still a certain line to follow. Like you could ignore some of the gyms and come back. That I agree with that, but there are certain things that you can't avoid. You have to go into into the Pokemon Tower to get the Poke Flute, or else you can never reach Fuchsia City. You'd have to do the plot for the sixth gym. If you don't do the Team Rocket thing, you can never enter the gym over there. So there is a certain line that you have to follow.
So but there are gym places that you can't get to based on plot points, but not the other way around. So like the HMs aren't tied to gym badges.
Correct.
So once you get to Fuchsia, for example, you can get your Sea Skim right away, and you can use it right away. So you can just ignore Fuchsia, go back to Pallet Town, and surf down to Cinnabar. Like that's a possibility.
Yes.
Right, but I guess what you're saying is to what end? Because you have to come back to Fuchsia eventually anyway to battle that gym. So like it's not aggressively linear, but like does the game benefit from that?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't. Okay. It's a little freeing, but then when you actually go back, there's like you've overleveled and things are too easy.
Yeah.
I'd also like to say that it really felt a little underwhelming on the difficulty for my part. But I think that's mainly because I was kind of a week on and off when I had the game the first time, and I kept spinning the Pokeball whenever I had the chance to train my Pokemon. And that way I got a lot of candy, and I got a lot of levels for free for one of my Pokemon. And it really made me already ahead of time when I was not supposed to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, for example, I think I was level 25 or something before I came to Brock. And an Eevee with double kick at level 25 versus Brock, and he doesn't stand.
No, for sure. At the beginning, it is definitely way easier. Like the Pokeball makes a much bigger difference like early on than later on, and all the moves that Pikachu and Eevee get that just make things simpler, like super effective hits right off the bat, and you can catch grass types in Viridian Forest. So
yeah,
you can even Route 1. In Pokemon Pikachu, there's an Oddish in Route 1, and in Eevee, there is a Bellsprout in Route 1.
They're everywhere. They're easy to find.
Yes.
And then you get the special moves, the like Zippy Zap and whatever. I didn't use those, but those are there for you to use, and they're ridiculously powerful. Yeah.
I have been using them for my Eevee just because I feel like I lack the evolutions.
Yeah.
And to make up for that, and I have to say they get really powerful and really easy.
Yeah, I'm actually not using my Eevee on my team at all.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
yes.
It was just
poor Eevee.
Like I used it at the beginning for the first 2 or 3 gyms, but then it was just like not interesting. It's super powerful, but it's also like it's an Eevee. Like I've used it before, so I wanted to diversify my team more.
I didn't realize at the start that all the attacks that you can learn that way all have special effects. And I just kind of used them for elemental advantages. So in the first gym, I was like, well, hit me up with that water. And then suddenly I was healing half my health. And I was like,
they all have like a guaranteed second effect, which is like...
It's ridiculous. The one for... I have to say that I looked through them, and the one for Pikachu seems the strongest one in terms of usability. because you have the zippy for the Pikachu. It always goes first, and it's always a critical hit, no matter what.
I love that one.
It's so cute.
It's so powerful.
Yes,
and even though it's only 50, it's always a critical hit, so there's always double damage. So take account for 100 power, and plus stab, plus... It gets really, really...
And since there's no abilities in this game, there's no chance anything could have an ability that prevents critical hits. So...
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think critical hits in this generation are 50% extra damage and not double damage. So the power is 75, but that's
kept that
roughly on par with what the other special moves are. And like, because it's a critical hit, it'll ignore defense raises and that kind of stuff. So like it still makes up for it. Anna, do you want to say something?
Yes. Since it was my first time playing the game, my strategy was not look up stuff on internet and just play freely and see where the game will let me go. So I thought it was very...
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I thought it was fun because like there are always these characters around that are going to tell you where you should go next and what you should do. And that was what I was trying to do. I was trying to follow the directions of the game. Sometimes it ended up in wrong places, sometimes not. But I thought like overall the game was very good about the difficulty levels. It was fun. It was not that hard. Sometimes it was really difficult to catch some sort of type of Pokemon or I don't know, legendary birds or stuff. But overall was nice. But when I got to the Elite Four, I was expecting a little bit more trouble on my side. And I thought on that time it was a little bit too easy, you know? But
was it difficult for you to figure out what types Pokemon were just visually? You probably don't know a lot of the types offhand.
Yeah.
So like, would you look at them and be like, I wonder what type this is, and like guess correctly a lot of the time?
Yeah, like for a bunch of Pokemons, I remember the types and stuff. Like if I played electric against water, I know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
But sometimes I play like electric against ground. It never worked, and I didn't know why. No. My boyfriend was like, "Are you stupid? You're not supposed to play electric against that." So it took me.
You're not stupid. A lot of the type effectivenesses are not intuitive, so don't worry about it.
Like
some feel a little.
I bought the Pikachu, and sometimes I was so mad because I used the Thunder power, and for a lot of Pokemons it didn't work. For a lot of battles it didn't work, and then my boyfriend told me it was because it had like a low level of accuracy that I didn't know. So there are all these little details. Like I still don't know what candies are for. Still trying to figure out. But yeah, so it's.
We'll get there in a bit.
Like I think it's nice because if you don't know anything at all, it's gonna be fun and you can play it. But that's what I believe. If you know a lot about it, there are a lot of little details that you can work around to make your Pokemon better and make the battles better. So I hope I'll get to this next level soon.
You will. I believe in you.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Thanks for believing me.
We were all at your point at one point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How did it go using only Kanto Pokemon?
So I don't really mind having the original 151 because I think like this game was very much meant to appeal to players of Pokemon Go and newer players to the series as well. And I think throwing 800 Pokemon at a new player all at once is a little overwhelming. So I think it's totally fine from a nostalgia and gameplay standpoint to start with the originals. But I do wish that their full lines were included in the game. I wish that Electabuzz could evolve, and I wish that certain things had a pre-evolution. So it's a shame.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I think as well. It's good to have a smaller number of Pokemon like that. That's fine. And like these are the Kanto Pokemon, so these are the Pokemon that you expect to see in Kanto. You don't expect to see like a Lucario or whatever in Kanto.
Yeah.
But like, why can't Electabuzz evolve? Like you said,
because reasons. Because reasons,
exactly. But they included Mega Evolutions and Alolan forms.
Yeah, which is so weird that they wouldn't. I feel like they just hate Sinnoh. Anything that happened in Sinnoh, they're like, don't remember that. That didn't. No.
Don't talk about Sinnoh. Yeah. Don't talk about Sinnoh. The Alolan forms actually make sense because if the way you get them is you talk to the trainers, and the trainers will be, I came all the way from here from blank, and I would love to have a blank Pokemon from here instead of this one that I have.
I liked how they implemented that.
Right, but what?
It was kind of nice.
But why not have someone who will trade you an Electabuzz that is holding
Exactly
the Electrolyzer?
Yeah.
And ta-da, you get an Electivire right in game. Like, these are things that just, they could be there.
Yeah.
But like, I don't see why they're not.
Because of course, like, hold items are a thing they excluded from the game, but that doesn't mean there wouldn't be ways to circumvent that within the game they built.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they did that with Megastones.
Yeah.
So
I feel like if I'm gonna look from an in-game perspective, like imagine if Pokemon was real, if you find a animal from one country and trade it for some other of the same species in another country, and you get a different one, it would be nice. However, if I need to give my animal something before it changes, between all the runs that you had, how many times had you have an I can't talk today. Yeah, no, an Electrolyzer without like paying for it. You have to earn them. It's like actual hard work
or like find them somewhere. Yeah, but
they're rare items, basically.
Yeah,
I'd be fine if they were rare and to get in the game. I just wish there was a way to get them.
Yes, but from a perspective, if it's a rare item, right? Why would someone give it to their Pokemon to trade away?
Well, sure.
So you'd want a different method than an NPC trading it to you. Yeah,
it would be.
Yeah, I was just giving an example for that one, but like, I just think that there should be ways to get them. In the case of something like a trait evolution like Electivire, it could even be in game like the Alolan forms were. But if not, like, why not allow them to be transferred from Go? Like, those Pokemon are now available in Go.
Yes.
Most of them, anyways. I don't know if all of them are.
Generation 4 is coming out at the moment.
Yeah, no, but like, have Glaceon and Leafeon been added?
Not yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
Not
yeah,
yet.
so like,
No,
there's still
yet.
some missing evolutions in there.
Yeah.
I think mostly because they really wanted to focus on the Kanto part. Like, it had to be a rerun of your old Pokemon Yellow. You had to feel a little bit nostalgic. And it would kind of break the nostalgic part if you'd run around with Lucario or with a Tangrowth, because the Tangrowth wasn't there before.
And while I understand that point of view, I like, why Mega Evolutions then, if they wanted that?
Exactly.
I'm kind of baffled about too, and I'm still baffled about the whole Mega Evolution being a thing in general.
Like in this game specifically, or in the franchise?
In the franchise, but that's just personal to me. I get that it's supposed to be another peak of power, but it feels lackluster, or it feels weird. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Anna, what did you think of the selection of Pokemon? Too many? Too few?
No. On a selfish view, I love it that they put the first 151 because, well, I was a kid when Pokemon got out, and that was the time that I really was crazy about it, and like all my friends were crazy about it. It was the first generation and the second, but I remember a big boom for Pokemon for the first generation. So this game brings me back to my childhood straight away. Like, I know all the Pokemons there, nothing there is too new for me, and a little bit details are new, which is very exciting. Like the Alola thing, I had no idea about that. So the first time there was this guy wanting me to trade a Rattata for his Rattata, I didn't know what that was going to be. And it was this new Pokemon that I never seen before. So it was very exciting and frustrating because I got the Pikachu version and I want the Alola Vulpix, but I can't get it. I still have to figure out how to trade with someone.
I can trade one to you if you'd like one.
Yes, please. But to me, it's super exciting, like the 151 being there. And I was hoping that maybe they could have for the second generation also, but I didn't. I don't know. Like, I don't know what are the new games coming next year, so I really don't know what's going on. But
yeah,
it would be nice. But
none of us
satisfied.
know what's going on with that yet.
No.
But even the second generation Pokemon, like, they're still very well known.
Yes.
Like, most people, or like almost everyone knows Gen 1, but most people also know Gen 2. That was kind of like when it was starting to go out of style kind of thing. But people still know a lot of them, so...
Yeah, a lot of people even think Togepi's from Gen 1 just because it was so popular in the show. So
yeah, Meryl as well.
Yeah.
I just think that it would have been nice to have those extra evolutions.
I'm with you.
It would have been a nice touch. It would have been a nice touch, but I don't regret the choice of Pokemon that they made.
No, I don't I don't resent them for it or anything, but like we've already done Gen 1 in the original Game Boy, we've already done Gen 1 in the Virtual Console, we've already done Gen 1 on the Game Boy Advance with your first remakes, and all of those were only with, well, your main playthrough at least, were only with the original 151. I think it would have been really nice to have access to those other evolutions during your regular playthrough to kind of change things up. Like we've been there, so just would it? Yeah.
Maybe it was just easier for them. Like they already have the, I don't know, the digital forms of those Pokemons, and like let's just get what we have, make it better, and then release it.
The models they do have of all of the Pokemon, those are all like basically ready. They've been the same for several years. But I mean, it's true that they would have had to add more Pokemon into the game, and maybe that would have taken up memory.
I think they touched up some of the models, by the way, for this.
I know that the starter Pikachu and the starter Eevee are updated models that look really nice. But it's weird because like you can encounter a wild Eevee, and if you're playing Eevee version, you're like, why does this Eevee kind of look like garbage? And they just like left that model in.
I hadn't noticed that. Like comparing Eevee to Eevee.
Check them out side by side.
I will do that. Well, speaking of the models then, how about the way the game looked overall? The visual quality of the game.
I think, okay, compared to Sun and Moon, which was still on the 3DS, they did touch up the models. I like, there's, the style's similar, but it's still touched up a little bit to look more, the Pokemon come forward a little better. Like, they show a little bit of their aspects a little better. You can zoom in, you can scroll around. If you look in your Pokedex, you can roll them around, you can inspect them better. I feel that the art style has worked on a lot. And not only that, but also more for immersion. I've bumped into the Rocket HQ, and there's multiple types of buildings. If you go to Silphco, back in the day, it was just like, oh, here's another rack of computers, here's another rack of computers. And now there was also like small tables with extra Pokeballs scattered around. There was a charging station with these weird Pokemon contraptions on it. And it just felt more immersive towards all players, basically, because not only did the new players now see like, oh, this is really interactive, I wonder what they're doing, but the older players will be like, man, I remember going through here and I don't remember it looking like this at all. So it feels like something new. So I feel like they did a good job representing what they meant through image, through newer art, through smaller touches of the things. Like if you see the gambling hall.
The game corner that is now an arcade.
Gambling hall, close enough. Close enough.
It looks nice on the outside too. You can actually see like it's trying to invite people in. It looks decorative. It looks happier, festive. It tries to lure people in, which makes it feel like you want to go in.
Yeah, I think that it looks beautiful. Just like the visual art style is perfect. For me, the like classic Pokemon aesthetic is the one from Generation 2, but considering that this is on the Switch, like this is perfect. This is what I think Pokemon should look like. But
the key word of today.
Exactly. If you compare how the people are in that world, they feel less alive than in Sun and Moon. And so like the Pokemon out in the overworld, they're great. Like it really gives the region like more life. It makes it feel like there's actual like animals out there kind of thing.
Strongly agree.
But the people though, whereas in Sun and Moon, the trainers actually looked around and would spot you and would battle you from where they were. This game functions exactly like in Generation 1, where they just turn like directly. They don't actually scan. It's like from here to here, without actually doing this. So if you're standing like right here and then the character is looking this way, they're not going to see you. They're going to turn directly this way. They're not going to see you. Like in Sun and Moon, they would have actually turned and spotted you halfway through the turn.
I do agree. I can't disagree with that. I can't tell you how many times I was like, I don't feel like a trainer battle right now, and I just wait for that little switch, and then you just bypass them. I agree with that. That's a little silly.
Yeah,
But
in Sun and Moon, there were even trainers who were stretching, and then they would like bend over, and they would see you behind them between their legs.
And that was great.
Like,
I missed that too.
that was amazing. Like it's a trainer. They're gonna see you when they look behind them. Like we're not just like if you're standing in a diagonal, they're never gonna see you.
That's something I feel like they put in this game to adhere more to the original Red Blue, and I'm not sure why, because that's not something people bring up when they talk about like original Pokemon. They're like, oh man, do you like it how the trainers just turn at cardinal 90-degree angles? That's my favorite part. It's like, no.
Remember when that trainer was standing there and just quickly, there you are.
Yeah, so I'm with you. They could change that one.
The same kind of applies to wild Pokemon too, because even though like the way they spawn, the way they move generally is like looks great, but they also only move they can move diagonally, but they don't turn smoothly, kind of thing, right? So that kind of takes it away a little bit for me. It depends on the Pokemon, especially big Pokemon, like it's more noticeable, but like, why not? Like, in a system that has Breath of the Wild looking absolutely fantastic, and with animals that spawn and despawn in a, like, relatively similar fashion, but, like, they move so naturally. Why all of these kind of downgrades?
I think that we're also comparing Breath of the Wild at the moment to Pokemon, which is not a good thing, because I think Breath of the Wild is like triple the size of Pokemon Let's Go.
True, but they could take elements
They
from
could
it.
take.
It's an older game, I guess, is what Libris is saying.
I get it.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild has been out for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. And this brand new game is not even close to that. I'm happy with the visual style, but it's just like little mechanics. Like, why can't a trainer just turn around smoothly? Why can't a Pokemon turn around smoothly?
Certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
Can I touch base on something I really enjoyed about the visual style? To counterbalance that a little. So one of the things they did in the earlier Pokemon generations is they tried really hard to emulate the style of Ken Sugimori, who did the original watercolor art for Pokemon. And in doing so, they washed out a lot of the colors on the models. And that would have been fine if the world they created was also washed out, but it wasn't. So a lot of the Pokemon models looked really pale for a long time. And in this game, they finally realized that was a bad idea, and the models are colorful again. Thank you.
No, it's
Thank you.
absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Well, since I mentioned how the wild Pokemon move around, why don't we talk about your experience with wild Pokemon?
I love it.
I love it too.
That's it.
It's very fun.
It's good. And a niche little thing that I've noticed, and I don't know if anyone noticed, different species act differently around the trainer. A Rattata or a Raticate will try to engage the player more than, let's say, a Coughing. A Coughing will just float around do his thing.
Yeah. It's so cool.
And
I had a Magmar chase me around the other day. I was trying to avoid it, and it actually like ran after me.
Hey, just come back here. I need you. You're trespassing.
I think Abra's a really interesting one, because if you walk in front of Abra, it will teleport away because it will see you. So you have to engage it from behind.
That's nice.
And it's so cool how there's different
The
AI.
meme is alive. The meme is alive. It still is.
I love it. I think it's super fun.
How did grinding go? Trying to get experience from wild Pokemon.
Really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I prefer to just use chain linking because it goes up and up in experience as you continue going. I'm not a bad throw myself, and a little bit of patient pays off. First throw, excellent throw, and you get a lot of experience real fast.
And you didn't mind the absence of wild battles?
I actually preferred it. I know that's probably sacrilegious to say in a Pokemon community, but it feels more fresh when you get to engage things on a different level. When you're not beating up these poor wild animals, and instead you just kind of engage and you have like this like fun little game with them instead.
Yeah. PETA called. They were like, no more beating up wild animals.
Yeah.
And it seems like they added a lot of trainers too to counterbalance the fact that there would be less battles in the game. And I like the two different modes now.
Yeah.
I didn't miss it.
I don't feel like they added more random trainers. I think they only added the coaches and the master trainers.
But they added enough coach trainers that it does like there's one or two on every route kind of thing. So
yeah.
Anna, how did you feel about wild Pokemon encountering and catching?
I love it. I got the Pokemon the Pokeball Plus, and it's so fun. Like, yes, I actually like chasing Pokemon around more than battling. So to me, that was super fun. Like, and the Pokeball gives you this. You get immersed into the game, and it just feels more real to you. And like,
I agree.
It's so fun because it vibrates and it goes with the light, flash of lights. And the other day, I read on the internet that you could take your Pokemon around. So I put the Pikachu in it and just walked around the block, pushing the buttons, and it would become like all the colors at once. It was super fun.
If you like roll it around in your hand like this, it'll make a cute little sound too. Check it out.
Nice. I will do it.
I got it muted at the moment, but I've been wiggling this since we started just to get experience.
So one of the cool things that I really like about the ball too, from a flavor perspective, is the color on the ball will light up the color of the Pokemon you put in there, and it will light up the color of the shiny Pokemon you put in there too, which I thought was awesome. I was really floored about that.
See, that's why I was confused, because I thought I had my Charmander in here, which is now a Charizard, but that's one niche thing I noticed. If you put a Pokemon in, it doesn't update until you float it back.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, I had that happen with one of my Pokemon too.
My Charmander is now a Charizard in my game, but since I put it in here as a Charmander, I haven't updated it, so it's still goldish instead of black.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the controllers specifically, but just to finish up on the wild Pokemon thing, I loved it, but I did have one problem with it because this is relatively minor, but because you have a shiny hunting method that is very easy and available basically right from the start with combos. But that shiny Pokemon, the shiny hunting method, is exactly the same as the grinding method. It's actually impossible to shiny hunt without also grinding.
What is grinding?
Grinding is just like racking up experience.
Oh, okay.
Leveling up Pokemon.
Teens do on the dance floor.
Okay.
Oh, that too.
But you couldn't in the last games either, because you had to fight all the Pokemon and then keep on chaining them to get
for
higher
that
chances of shiny
method,
anyway.
yes. But there were other shiny hunting methods like the Ultra Wormholes, for example, where you just jump in and out. You don't have to battle anything.
So I don't mind that the leveling and the shiny hunting method is consolidated, because that means if I'm going for competitive Pokemon too, by comboing them, then I have a really good chance of finding a competitively viable shiny one, which is great.
No, for sure. But it just means that like it kind of feeds into what I was saying earlier about things getting a little easy because you're over leveled.
Oh yes.
If you decide to do some shiny hunting early on, you're going to gain a ton of levels, and then once you do get that shiny Pokemon in your party are going to be like way stronger than anything that you're actually going to battle against.
That's a fair criticism. Yeah.
And on top of that, because you can't get experience without catching a Pokemon, that means that you end up your grinding session with a whole bunch of Pokemon that you don't actually want.
That's why
you don't want 50 Rattatas? You don't have a use for that?
I do not have a use for 50 Rattatas.
I have a nice grinder that turns them into candy, and I call it the Professor, okay?
Yeah, for sure. But that's like, you actually have to take that step of selecting all of them 30 at a time. If you do bigger combos, like it's going to take longer. And just to clear your party or your boxes so that things are easier to find. It's just an extra step. I don't know how they could have fixed it, because I like not having to battle, but having to catch means also having to release them afterwards.
But the catching is actually beneficial to you, because you can also get the candy. You also, if you transfer them, you have a high chance of getting the candy, which also means that the one that you do get is probably going to get a couple of stats with the candy, which makes the grinding, furthermore, afterwards easier. And you don't have that weird catch-up phase where you drop a level 10 Pokemon in your level 50 party. He will be a little bit more useful around level 40 because you have a ton of candy around.
Yeah, no, I do like the method overall. There's just like these little things that kind of bother me. I have been playing almost exclusively in handheld mode.
Okay.
Because I don't really like playing with a single Joy-Con or with the Pokeball. Neither of them really do it for me. Throwing Pokeballs with a Pokeball, yes, absolutely. I love it. But the actual like walking around and interacting with Pokemon, everything on a single hand, I did not like that. So I just switched to playing almost exclusively in handheld. But when you're in handheld and you have this beautiful touchscreen in front of you, you cannot touch the screen. Like the only thing that works as a touchscreen is petting your partner.
Yes.
There are no menus or anything that work in the touchscreen.
Which is wild considering Pokemon's been on a touchscreen console for over a decade.
Yeah,
exactly.
So like when you're selecting, doing a massive select of Pokemon, you still have to go move, click, move, click, move, click. Whereas if it was a touchscreen, you could just go doop, doop,
I'm
doop,
with
doop, doop.
Like in, let's say, Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the game that it's made for?
Basically.
Yeah. So the thing that's really weird to me about this is that this is exactly the same problem that they had when they made the jump to the Nintendo DS, where very little was actually on the touchscreen. Like your party order, for example, you had to do that by pressing buttons, and you couldn't just like click and drag things into place.
Yeah.
They fixed that for maybe Gen 6, I think.
Right.
Maybe Gen 5.
So by 2023, we will be doing this on the Switch too. Don't worry about it.
Pokemon is a franchise all about baby steps. They want to give you the thing you like every generation and then be like, maybe next year you'll get that other thing you kind of want. Maybe. We'll see.
So but how did the control schemes work out for you guys?
I've been using the Pokeball, as I said, and honestly, it's not a bad control scheme, although I have a couple of niche things with the Pokeball that I noticed. I can't reach all the menus with just the Pokeball. Like, I can't go into some of my options. I can't...
You have to shake it. Shake it is the
Yeah,
secondary motion.
There was one option in your... I think it was your Pokemon box, and it was for the Y button, so I shook it, and it didn't work. And I was just like...
It definitely works for me, so I hope your ball's okay.
I hope my ball's okay, too. But for other things, like walking over the world, and I shook my Pokeball, it pulled up my Eevee. So the shortcut did work, just not for certain menus, which is what weirded me out.
I didn't even know you had this shake thing.
The game does not communicate that to you well. I only figured out way later that you could actually get to the secondary menus by shaking the Pokeball. I wish someone had told me, or there'd been like a signpost that was like, hey, trainer tip, maybe shake the thing you
I know,
that's the one thing for something that you pay for the Pokeball Plus, it really doesn't come with a lot of instructions.
Yeah.
No instructions. For instance, did you know you can link this to your Pokemon Go? And not just Pokemon Let's Go.
Yeah, you can use it as...
Are you serious?
There you go!
There you go, you learned something.
I didn't know.
You can use it to like spin stops and catch Pokemon. It's very cool.
Gosh!
Yeah!
If you have a Pokemon in there, it'll even do that automatically. But I haven't been able to connect it.
I have got it to work once, and it's because I had a friend come over and do it for me, and then she left, and it disconnected, and I haven't got it to work since.
I connected it, I tried to reconnect it, and it didn't reconnect, and then I went through some menus of disabling it on my phone, re-abling it on my phone, disabling it in Pokemon Go, reconnecting it in Pokemon Go, and then it worked. And I'm afraid to actually test it out right now, because I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
I haven't been able to get it to connect. My fiance hasn't been able to get it to connect on hers either. She has the same model phone as me, so like it could be a like hardware thing. But I've also talked to other people on Twitter that are having the same problem and just not being able to connect. I have reached out to Pokemon support, and all of their tips have not worked.
Oh, no.
So like right now, I do use the Pokeball to walk around with my Pokemon from Let's Go. But that is actually the only thing I use it for, because I don't really like it as a controller for playing, only for catching, and it doesn't work with Pokemon Go. So,
I did like the Pokeball. I played through the entire game with the Pokeball up until the Elite Four. I'm kind of tragically uncoordinated, so even though I had a lot of fun throwing the ball, I kind of had to like figure out a method that would work. I kind of just made awkward hand gestures at the TV until it would throw. But I liked it. I will say that when I'm going for chaining and shiny Pokemon, I will play docked, because throwing, while not as immersive when you're docked, it's infinitely easier because you just press the A button and the ball flies right at the center of the screen. So for any sort of accuracy, I would do that, but I think playing through the game is more fun with the ball.
Yeah, and I liked the fact that playing with the ball is a little bit harder, so it gives you this realistic state, I think. But
yeah, sometimes you throw it too hard, and you're like, no, Dang it!
Yes.
I will say that money is actually a resource in this game that matters because you're just buying. You need to buy Pokeballs to level up your
For
Pokemon.
once.
Yeah. So post game, you need to buy the Mega Stones. There's a ton of stuff at the Celadon Mart, like evolution items and accessories for your Pokemon that you need to buy. And it's actually interesting once to care about the sum of money that I have in Pokemon because I can't just rack it up because I always need to spend it on stuff.
I will teach you the way of the capitalist of the Pokemon. Outside of Mount Moon, there is a coach trainer who will give you payday.
Yeah, but once you get to like late game, I want to say the Mega Stones are like 30,000 a piece. It would take a really long time.
A level 100, I taught my Mew payday. If I'm going to use that, I'm going to make good use out of it. So it's my payday. A level 100 Mew will get you 500 per payday.
Okay.
That means
Nice.
every trainer in the Elite Four with 6 Pokemon is worth about 3,000 extra gold.
Yeah, that's fair. How about we move on? I wanted to talk about competitive-ish things. So, like things to do with things to do with the battling system. We don't have held items. We don't have abilities, and the selection of moves that are available in the game is really small.
Yes.
So, how did that affect your battling experience?
I have yet to PvP.
Even in game, though, like it still has an effect in game.
I would say in-game, I felt like it affected very little because on a playthrough, you're going to see a very limited amount of the moves that a Pokemon can learn anyway. You're just not going to see the full breadth of things. And one of the big things for competitive is this game has Stealth Rock, but there's no way to spin rocks off the field. There's no Rapid Spin, there's no Defog. And that doesn't matter in the slightest for a playthrough because Stealth Rock's a really bad move on a playthrough. So...
like, I guess there is a sort of meta that if you have Nintendo Online subscription, you can battle other people.
Oh yeah,
It's friends only. Yeah, need to have their code.
people online. I think you can battle a random person if you just queue up, and people have just been putting in the first. You can just do Pikachu, 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 and you'll battle like a random person. So
I didn't know that. That's a workaround.
With the friend system and with the lack of abilities and with the lack of hold items, it's clear that the game is definitely trying to appeal to a more casual gamer base. And I think that's totally fine. But people are still playing it competitively, and there's a meta online, which I think is also totally fine.
Yeah.
So
how were battles for you, Anna?
Yeah, like
I imagine you haven't battled other real people, but
No.
not yet.
no, not yet.
I'm getting there.
Yes, but I think the battles are fun. I don't know. It's quite like I expected. Nothing too much over it, but they're kind of exactly what I remember of people using to play on Game Boy. So it's easy and fun, and I don't know. I think that's it.
That's great. That's great to hear.
It wasn't too simple or too complicated.
Yes. Like if your Pokemon is like sleep and in sleep, you can give him a potion to wake up, and so some things I didn't quite understand, like why would the Pokemon's like like if they got like if they were like asleep and then all of a sudden the Pokemon was okay, without me giving me a potion or something. Some
the friendship stuff.
Yeah.
Between the friendship and some statuses go away.
Oh, okay.
If your Pokemon loves you so much that it has the power to expel surface level illnesses. Yeah.
Overall, it's a good experience for battle. It's fun.
And I think it's great that people can just pick it up and play it like that. Like a lot of people assume that competitive players don't want casual players to have fun. And that's not true at all. Just because I like playing the game in a different way doesn't mean I don't want people to enjoy it in the main way that it's meant to be played.
I agree. I feel like the reason why we're not seeing a real competitive scene behind this game is because of the candy system, though. I've looked it up, and you can get over 200 stats in a single stat.
So while that's super cool, candies do not apply to your Pokemon stat when you connect online to battle.
Really?
So
Okay,
they're
no.
just they're just an in-game thing.
Just in game. Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense. But like, I was looking at it, I was like, if this is true, my Eevee can get 200 attack, 200 defense, 200 special attack, 200 special defense, 200 speed, and 200 extra health. Like, what in game
it would
is
be
still
insane.
What in game is still gonna fight me at this point?
Nothing.
I can walk up to Red and give him a slap in the face and be like, "There, take that."
So it's just like a very watered down version of older competitives where like natures still matter and IVs still matter, but you don't have any effort values and there's a much smaller move pool to go off of.
Is it still fun?
Yeah, it's still really fun. Hitting Gengar with Earthquake, it's about time.
Didn't they change that in Gen 7 though?
They did get rid of I want to say they changed out his ability to Cursed Body instead of Levitate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Wasn't it his ability now, Cursed Body or something?
I think his regular ability is Curse. It's something. They swapped out Levitate to something else. But like even like Wheezing, you can smack with that now. It's really funny to hit things that you would normally be afraid to hit with physical attacks that would have had like Poison Point and just be like, you got nothing now.
Yeah.
Where you at, Nidoran?
Yeah.
All right. I think I only have 3 more things that I wanted to ask about. Your experience with your own Pokemon following you, riding Pokemon, your partner Pokemon. How do you feel about your interactions with the Pokemon that you own?
Adorable.
Same.
It's super fun. I love the fact that you can put every single Pokemon to ride along you. And it's nice that you can sometimes, like, the first time I did it was by accident. Like, I turned to my Pokemon and I pressed A, and then I was talking to it. And it was happy to hear whatever I had to say. So it's super fun and super cute. But before I fought against the Elite Four, using the Pokemons that flew around, like Charizard and stuff, it was weird because I could not fly over everything.
Yes.
So I would start flying, and if there was a house, I would like go smack on it, and suddenly I'm off of the Charizard. So that was a little weird for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
But after fighting the Elite Four, then I can just fly around the city, the whole world, and it's more fun.
I love that too. I love that they added that.
I was actually expecting that to be the default for Pokemon that you fly on.
I thought so too.
Like it makes no sense that you can't just fly over a ledge.
Well, while I get it that it doesn't make sense thematically, I think they wanted you to be able to walk with Pokemon like Charizard if you used it on your playthrough earlier on. So they wanted to make that a post-game ability to fly over stuff.
Yeah, no, I get that. But even with Pokemon that follow you, like I first noticed it with a Pidgeotto following me. And you jump down a ledge, and Pidgeotto like returns to the ball and then comes out again.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that should not be a thing. I thought you were saying you should be able to skip over ledges with Pokemon you could fly with. That's like, well, that would make the game a little easier.
Yes, no, I do mean that in a more world building way. Like it would make sense to be able to fly up ledges if you're on a Charizard or Dragonite or whatever. But I get that that's like making things really easy to navigate. So maybe you don't want to do that early on in the game. But Pokemon that fly should be able to just fly down a ledge. Pokemon that run should be able to just jump down a ledge. Like
they should have made animations for that because it's not fun to always have them going back in their Pokeball.
Yeah, exactly. And like Pikachu did that in Yellow. All of the Pokemon did that in Heart Gold. Like they jumped.
Yeah.
So it's really weird the way that they like. But otherwise, I enjoyed it. I'm not big on petting my Eevee. Like I don't do it all the time. Basically, whenever whenever I have to use a secret technique, I go and I pet it. But I don't generally just like open that up just for fun. But that's how it's been for me, like since X and Y.
I bet you haven't even changed his hairstyle.
Yeah, have you changed his hairstyle?
Have.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But dressing up your Pokemon works really well on Pikachu. It doesn't work nearly as well with Eevee because the clothes all go under the neck fur.
Oh.
So you barely get to see the shirt.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that bothered me. That's the one menu I can't access with my Pokeball. When I shake the ball, it won't turn to Pokemon. I can't get control of looking around and seeing how it looks on him. So so that's one of the things that was a niche. But I do like the dressing up part. But like you said, for Eevee, it feels just slapped in for addition, and you really only can dress them up with a couple of accessories and maybe glasses and maybe a hat, but the shirt doesn't make a difference.
No, the shirt you see like a sliver of it, so
That makes sense.
like there's no point in putting a shirt on it.
I gave him the rocket shirt, and you just see like a little red, a little white, and like a little black, and that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't really add anything. Hats and accessories though.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yes.
No problem.
And glasses, don't forget glasses, super important.
Yeah. How about riding Pokemon and just in general, but also compared, for those of you that played it, compared to the Gen 7 version of riding Pokemon.
The previous gen version, where you had very small sanctioned sections where you can ride a little bit on Rhyhorn here, or maybe you can ride a little bit on Mamoswine here, and they weren't your Pokemon, was really lame, especially when they pushed it hard in the trailers that it was going to be this cool new feature, and everyone thought it was going to be more than it was. And I feel like they finally got it right in this game, because the ability to ride on almost anything that's big enough for you to sit on it is cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
great.
can we all have a moment of peace to remember the Machamp that you can ride on? And now again, by the way, in Pokemon Let's Go, he just kind of cradles you.
I love the way they did the Machamp in this game, because you sit on its shoulders, it holds your legs with its upper arms, it holds your partner Pokemon with its with one of its other arms, and it still has a hand free. So like that's fantastic. That's just so
nice.
much better than them holding you like this.
Okay, don't shame the wife cradle, because that was very good.
I laughed out loud at that one. Like when I first got the Machamp in Sun and Moon, I literally laughed out loud because it's just so ridiculous.
Yes.
So this new one is just it's much better. Like it works much better overall. But why can't Machamp push strength boulders around?
He only has one arm, man. Come on.
Because I do like that all the HMs are on Pikachu, because then you don't have to worry about filling your party with other... Well, I guess the ride Pokemon in Sun and Moon were kind of the equivalent of that, but they weren't your Pokemon, so you didn't really feel bonded to them. So I'm fine having your partner do all of that.
Okay.
And technically, all the people wanted to learn you the technique and not your Pokemon, but your Pokemon was just like, hey, by the way, I want to learn that too. You're learning something new?
Yeah.
I would have preferred something more in between. I do think that it should be your own Pokemon, but because like these aren't things that you necessarily have to have on you at all times, and you have the box on you, so you can actually swap out the Pokemon like whenever you need something, right? So I don't see why Machamp can't be the one that pushes things around, and maybe there's other Pokemon that can push things around. It doesn't make any sense to me for Eevee to like do a spin and slap a giant rock with its tail and then it moves.
But he's your buddy! You're so proud of him!
Have you seen that high five that Eevee gives?
Of course.
I mean, that's a powerful high five.
It's adorable, but in terms of world building, it just doesn't work for me. And because like I thought the ones from Sun and Moon, they were so close to being perfect. Like I didn't like that you had to have like special gear to ride on Pokemon. That was a bit weird to me, and I didn't like that they weren't yours. But other than that, I thought that it was perfect. So riding on Lapras, riding on Gyarados in Let's Go, wonderful, because you just like move around exactly the way
flying on Dragonite, flying on Charizard.
Exactly.
It feels good.
Exactly. But the cut, strength, and flash ones don't make any sense.
I mean, that's fair.
For Pikachu, the flash one would make sense.
Yes.
Though. That's the only one that would make sense. The cut, you can use tail, claws. I think it's even specified in one of the games that they said, like, use something sharp.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that most Pokemon do have.
Yeah.
What if the next game Pikachu just like breaks out like a machete? Is that better?
I would rather just have the opportunity to use a Mankey, to use chop down. Like, especially if it was cut before, it is chopped down now.
True.
Like, so much could chop down a tree, right?
Machoke.
Yeah. And so much could push around a boulder.
So would you want that Pokemon to be in your party, or would you be okay if it's a Pokemon you owned in your box and it had like functionality from there?
Kind of like Latios and Latias
Yeah.
in Auras.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be okay. I think that would be a good solution. Have them in your box so you don't have to take up party space, but it's your Pokemon that you're riding on, and it's multiple Pokemon that can perform that task.
Or the option to have your partner Pokemon, not your partner Pokemon do it, which is sitting on your head, but the Pokemon that you have out.
Yeah, that too. I just think that making it necessarily the partner Pokemon, it doesn't make sense in terms of world building. And making it a specific Pokemon that isn't yours, like it was in Sun and Moon, is just not as fun. I just want that in between. I think that would be the ideal way to do it. But
Can I bring up a subject real quick?
oh yeah, sure.
What do you guys think about the Eevee on the head? Because I thought it was so weird. That's why I bought the Pikachu version, because I thought it moved around on you like in a more natural way, I guess. I remember looking on like the commercials about the Let's Go and thinking it was so weird that Eevee be on your head.
People have made jokes about neck pain and neck cramping with Eevee always chilling up there. But I don't think I mind it very much because the Pokemon anime, that's kind of been a common thing for even just Pikachu riding on Ash's head before. So I didn't find it strange, but I can see how someone who wasn't super initiated with the Pokemon franchise might find it a little weird.
But yeah, but Ash's Pikachu mostly rides on his shoulder, right?
Mostly.
Which is why Pikachu is on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And like, why not have the Eevee on the shoulder as well? I do think it's a little weird to have Eevee on your head.
Would you guys like it more if Eevee was on the shoulder?
I think so.
Okay.
I would have preferred it if Eevee just walked with me, because I kind of liked it when at the start, between when you went over to the next town and came back, he walked with you instead of on you, which was for me a little bit more interesting because you could interact with him, you could talk to him, he would assess situations. Like, you come into your house and your mom would be there, and it said like, "Oh, Eevee's interested in your mom," and you'd be like, "Okay, that's cool,
Okay.
Eevee."
I don't mind having it on you. Although if it was following you around like all the time, then that would be fine. But because you have a different Pokemon to follow you around, and that's a Pokemon from your party, if you had Eevee following you around and it had to be in your party, then I would feel bad about putting it away. Like, I don't want Eevee in my team because I just want to diversify who I'm actually using, but I'm really happy to have it on me all the time because I don't feel like I'm neglecting my starter Pokemon. It's there, it's just not battling.
Yeah.
And have you guys been having trouble using the quote-unquote item finder?
No, I've had total ease with that.
I've only really got use out of it in the tunnel where they pointed it. And for the rest, it's a little small to see every now and then. Then again, I usually mainly play it with, I have the tablet like in front of me and just a Pokeball like that. So it's kind of been niche for me to see because it's like this big
That's
on
fair.
the screen.
I think it's probably harder to see when you're playing handheld, but at the same time, I like it way more than selecting like all the time. That's the problem with the item finder, because you're not really ever going to be looking for it if you have to physically select it from your menu and then go to find the item. Like, it's just easier when it's always out. So I did like that about Pikachu and Eevee.
Wasn't there also one version where they actually used like the item finders where they split up a little bit when you were facing?
I think
the
so.
item? That was nice. It's just if you could hit it on a quick button, like you'd hit the quick buttons on your riding Pokemon in Sun and Moon, that would have been nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of quick buttons, no way to quickly access secret techniques or other items, although I don't think there are any field items that you really want to use.
Yes.
Shake your Pokeball and you're instantly at your Eevee.
That is true.
Yeah, but then you still have to go and select secret technique and so on. Whereas in Sun and Moon, you could press something on the D-pad and immediately the ride Pokemon is out and ready to go.
Isn't there still an option to this one where you just basically walk up to something and then press A and it still works? Because I haven't really.
Yeah, there's still that, but I think Fly is still a little cumbersome because you can't interact with the air to grab Fly.
True.
So.
And like, especially in handheld mode where you actually have both Joy-Cons available to you, there are so many unused buttons.
Yes.
Yes.
So many buttons that just do nothing. And
because I think they really wanted to push the Pokeball.
Yeah, clearly, but I think it's in detriment of people who don't use it or just don't want to.
No, you're entirely right, yeah.
Because I've noticed even if you have it docked on your Switch and you use the L and R buttons and the ZL and the ZR, they both function as A and B buttons on both sides. So I get your point. It could have been something else.
And when you're using a single Joy-Con, you either don't have the home button or you don't have the screen capture button, both of them are important to me. So that's another reason I play handheld, because I actually have both the home button and the screen capture button.
And the Pokeball doesn't have a home button. Let's also not forget about that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about story stuff. I obviously have not yet finished the story, not quite there yet, but I do really like the small changes that they've made to the story, like how Lorelei from the Elite Four shows up to help you against some rockets. You meet gym leaders every once in a while, out in the wild kind of thing. So I like all of that, and the cameo from Mina from Sun and Moon, I liked that.
That was also nice.
Although that was weird, but that's a topic for a different video. But yeah, I like all of the like little things that they put in to change the story. But maybe someone who's a little farther along can tell us a little more.
I like the little changes quite a bit. I'm with you. The big change that I don't like the rival always being like this warm fuzzy character now. I mean, like Blue is still in the game, and I wish it focused more on him because I really like the rival that's mean, and it gives you motivation to kind of best this big meanie who you don't want to be the champion of the Elite Four.
Yeah, I had that same problem with Sun and Moon, where you just had like 3 or 4 different trainers, all with their own hopes and dreams, who's going to end up as a rival, but you're still chum with on different levels. One wanted to be a dancer, one wanted to be the Pokemon League master, and all of them had a different rivalry at a point, but none of them were actually rivals. They were just more traveling companions.
The game is so intent on giving you these NPCs that feel like your friends, but your Pokemon are your friends. You don't need the game to tell you who your friends are. You want to have enemies to fight with your team.
No, and you're going to have friends. Well, yeah. Like you have other people that you talk to that you play with, right? You don't necessarily need NPCs to be your friends. You need NPCs that you want to beat up.
Just because Pokemon is a game that's marketed towards a younger audience doesn't mean everyone has to be this warm, cushy, inviting character.
Like even Blue back in Pokemon Red, or Pokemon Blue, but he just came in and he was like, "Yo, you're finally here? Yeah, chum, I'm gonna beat your ass. Go back."
Yeah.
And he wait at the end of caves and tunnels that he knew was hard. Well, he just came back fully healed, and he was like, "Hey, you just had a bad time, didn't you? Good."
I thought there was only going to be one big rival, and then there's this kind of rival friend thing. That I think it was okay. Like, not a big opinion made out of it. Just I thought it was nice.
And maybe we have such this strong attraction to the rival who's a total jerk just because we grew up with that. So you're like, this is fine, this is new. Yeah.
Now I'm looking forward to see what's gonna be new for Pokemon in the next years. I would be happy to have something sort of in the same base of this game, but with the Pokemons from the second generation and with a little difficulty level of it, a higher difficulty level to me to play it. But the overall base of it, I like it. So if something similar in some levels to this game would come up next year or next couple of years, I'd be happy to play it. One thing that would definitely interest me, it's a new Pokemon Stadium. I used to love that game.
Oh, yeah.
So please, Nintendo, come up with a new one. I'll be so happy to play it.
Yeah, when was the last one? The last one was like for the Wii.
Pokemon Battle Revolution? Was that the last one?
Yeah.
I know a lot of the allure of it was seeing your Pokemon in 3D and with all these great graphics and animations. And now that they can do that on a handheld console, there doesn't seem to be as much of a pull to that. But I think there's still reasons that a spin-off game like that would make sense.
Although move animations in Pokemon Stadium were individualized. Like, Blastoise would actually shoot Hydro Pump from its cannons. Pokemon doing Mega Kick would actually kick.
Yeah, instead of just like bouncing up like they did in Let's Go. I wish there was a little more detail in this.
That's something that I really miss, something that I want to see again in the next generation. I get Pokemon not having these individualized animations because, there are over 800 Pokemon, so you do a generic animation. But when you have a game that only has about 170 Pokemon and a reduced move pool, why not? They did those individualized animations for 250 Pokemon in Stadium 2,
especially when you're starting with models that are already, for the most part, just being brought over from previous games. Like, you have assets, make some nice stuff.
That's what I want to see from the next generation. I expect them to keep using
Yeah.
those models, so just improve on them.
I agree.
You know, I usually defend Pokemon for keeping things simple graphically because they have, you know, over 800 Pokemon, over 700 moves, plus abilities, natures, EVs, IVs. There's so much variation. The battle system is very complex. So it makes sense that they would focus processing power and storage on that and not on graphics. But in Let's Go, they downgraded the complexity of the battles in a lot of ways, but they didn't upgrade the graphics to match, considering this is on a system that can handle Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one thing I liked about Battle Revolution. It didn't have the whole storyline behind it, which gave a lot of room, and also no world map, which also gave more room even, for details on the Pokemon, for details on the moves, for extra space for graphical design, which, in my opinion, it is a large part of your Pokemon game. So if you have something like that, it would make it easier for space allocation and programming, probably a lot. So that being said, if now they had a test run with a, let's just not call it a main series game, but mostly a spin-off, or a new main series, it would make sense, and I'm glad that they did it, because it probably gave them a couple of hints and ideas of what they could do and what they couldn't do. Like, test the limits of said console. They could find out what people do use on it. They can find out what people are happy about and what people are not happy about before releasing a new main game, which could have been a total disaster.
All right, I think that about wraps it up. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. It was cool.
Yeah, super fun. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to be here.
I think we've had some really good talks here. We have had a really good conversation. I'm going to have a challenge trimming this down for the video, but I think it's going to be worth it.
Cool. It was nice meeting you all, and I
so
hope you have a nice holiday.
You guys too. I'll message you guys because I want tips for the game.
Oh gosh, yeah. Anytime.
Thank you. I really will.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye bye.
Have fun, y'all.
I'm Umbrian Libris, and I will see you in the next chapter.